Hello, everyone. I'm Rolf. This is Jiho. We'll be talking about Axie. Just in case you don't know what that is, Axie is kind of a play to earn game. That's how it started out, and we'll talk about how it started as a really small community, and then it's kind of growing to become like a digital nation. Like they're interacting with governments. The Discord is maxed out. There's only 5 Discords in the world that are maxed out. And Jiho is going to kind of take us on that journey and tell us about all the coordination challenges that come with that. So Jiho, tell us how it all started.
Sure. First of all, it's awesome to be here. And yeah, so I discovered NFTs in 2017 through CryptoKitties. And as someone I grew up collecting butterflies, fossils, playing games, and for the first time, right, it felt like this was an aspect or a space within crypto where I could actually use the skills that I'd been building up over my life to my advantage, right? To help build communities, to help actually create a market. Before that, it felt like, oh, if I wasn't very technical, or I wasn't interested in trading, it seemed like there wasn't really a space for me. So yeah, I joined the CryptoKitty community, and that's actually where I met 2 of my fellow co-founders of Axie, Trung and Alexander. And yeah, so in March of 2018, I stumbled across Axie just as a community member at first. And on that day, that was the day that the art was revealed for the first time. So for a month until that point, each Axie was just metadata that you could look at, and people were like, okay, like this sounds cool, but like, are they ever going to show us any art? Like, what is this, right? So it's very, very open-ended, and yeah, I think like our approach has always just been to iterate and build in public with the community, add things slowly over time.
Really quick about that, I think like one interesting insight is, so you were part of the community before there was really a game to play, right? So you were interacting with people, and also you came on as a community member, and then you became part of the founding team, right?
Yeah. So I bought a couple of Axies, and I thought that the vision was amazing, right? An NFT with actual utility that you could use your time and effort to create value with. But yeah, so I owned 2, but you couldn't do anything with them, right? So I kind of wanted to help. I started thinking about what I could personally do to add value to these assets. So I think that's the power, right, of crypto is like once you have skin in the game, you start asking yourself how you can actually help.
Yeah, that's really cool, right? Being an early community member, contributing value, then becoming part of the founding team. Tell us more about how that early community, right? How did that grow? I mean, you guys were going through the crypto bear market. What was the feeling like? Who were the community members? How did you guys kind of grow the community?
Yeah, so in March, it felt like the Axie community was just maybe 10 or 15 people talking in Discord, chatting about the future, what they would like to see from the game over the coming years. I think that was a really formative experience, right? Where because there was no content, we really got to know each other, and I think it was really important for the people building Axie, or Sky Mavis, but also other community developers, to learn about what people actually wanted. So I think that was really important. I think it was special. I think it's something that NFT projects today cannot experience because there is so much excitement, right? And there's so much expectation of profit, right? Like it's about money for a lot of the people in the space right now, which I think is okay as things mature. But I think there's definitely something lost where you don't have, when the majority of the community aren't these kind of hobbyists that are in it for the long term, in it to explore and try something new.
So today you guys have like 1.7 million MAUs, which are basically your DAUs, literally, right? 1.7 million people playing Axies every single day. How did you guys grow from being a bunch of hobbyists, 15, that can't even see what the hell this thing is, to becoming like a really big community? What really made you guys kind of take off?
So I think it was the bear market fermentation that was super important. there is kind of this understanding of the long-term vision, right? Like NFTs with true utility, the idea that gamers should be able to turn their time and effort into real value. You should be able to sell your game assets and in-game resources to anyone, anywhere in the world. And third, I guess, right, that games should be owned by the communities that play them, right? So I think over those 3 years, people started to really understand the vision, and then, right, as the market matured, there were catalysts, right, like the birth of play to earn, right, where, you know, when the hourly wage for playing Axie surpassed, you know, minimum wage in many Southeast Asian countries, I think that was, you know, when we first hit maybe product market fit with everyday people, everyday users. So yeah, now it's, you know, it's gone from, you know, an early community where almost everyone was, you know, an Ethereum enthusiast or hobbyist to now where a situation where 50% of our users have never used crypto before. You know, 25% don't even have bank accounts. So yeah.
How do these people that have never heard of crypto before, have never used MetaMask, how do they find out about Axies?
Yeah, it's typically through friends and family that have had amazing experiences in our ecosystem. So while I think that, yes, it is important for us to make user experience much better over time, I think it's also really important for dApp developers to understand what are the core benefits of their products, especially for everyday people. So for Axie, right, it's this combination of being able to play this fun and cute game while also being able to potentially earn some cryptocurrency. Also learning cryptocurrency, right? This is a space that people want to learn about right now, but they don't really have clear ways to kind of get their hands dirty. So I think that's also, yeah, that's part of it.
There's another really interesting component, right? So people don't know about cryptocurrency, they don't know MetaMask, some people don't have money. I mean, a very large percentage of your community members are from developing countries. So how is it that they get started in the first place? They have no bank accounts, they have no money, but you need a couple of Axies to start, right?
Yeah, so this is actually a problem that our community solved for us with the creation of the scholarship system. Right? Basically, what we've done is the ability to play using a team of Axies and the ownership of Axies has been separated. So in order to actually play the game, all you need to do is download the game and scan a QR code to log in. So we now have people who are, they might have a lot of Axies, right? Or even organizations like Yield Guild that have, you know, thousands of teams of Axies. They can then lend them out to people who want to get started but don't have the upfront capital by basically just giving out the QR code, right? So yeah, it's been amazing to watch that happen. I thought that it might happen. I think it was during the pandemic. I was playing Animal Crossing, right? And Tom Nook was making me work really hard to get these resources. I was thought like, why am I doing this for no value? I also looked up like, is it possible to sell my bells? And apparently it was, but like Nintendo was cracking down super hard on it, right? Anyway, so I thought that a system like that might actually develop, but it was amazing when it finally came like 5 months later with minimal kind of encouragement or facilitation from the team itself.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think another big question people have in DAOs, especially as DAOs grow, is how do you manage kind of top-down coordination versus like bottom-up coordination? Right, so you mentioned a little bit about how the community solved some problems, the whole scholarship system, which is extremely popular. Tell us a little bit about how you think about top-down coordination versus kind of bottoms-up coordination within the Axie ecosystem.
Sure. Yeah, this is I think a delicate topic, right? I'm kind of a moderate when it comes to this. I think that you do need, right, like large, or maybe not large, but like I guess very focused teams driving certain initiatives within a network or an ecosystem. But I do think that there are a lot of things that are not scalable unless they come from the community, right? So like I think education, onboarding, maybe like building analytics tools, Like I think these are things that need to be support, right? Like helping other people like get onboarded into the ecosystem. These are things that the community has to do. Like it can't really come from Sky Mavis. But I think that in the beginning, you do need a team of people that are well incentivized to basically spend all of their time building out content for the universe. So I think that's the compromise that we've made. I think in the long run, it will be impossible for one team to build enough content for hundreds of millions, hopefully billions of people. So I do think that long term, maybe the last piece of the puzzle is making it so anyone, anywhere can also build amazing experiences on top of our IP. But I think that's something that needs to be like a North Star that we build towards. It can't be something that's done too early. We've seen in the early days, right, we saw NFT projects like CryptoKitties, for example. They tried to like say, oh, it's the Kittyverse now, like it's up to the community to add content, but that really went nowhere, right? So I think it's a delicate balance.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think the idea that as you build communities, it's not just about a product per se, but also the content around that product, right? Which comes in different forms, and you can have the sort of the initial catalyst, which may be the founding team or the founding entity generating that content, but ultimately the community taking that over is the thing that really scales. So in terms of scaling challenges, tell us about some bottlenecks first, and then we'll talk about how you're trying to solve them.
Sure. I think there are different buckets of scalability, right? First, obviously, there was like data storage, right, and throughput. So we addressed that by basically creating our own EVM sidechain. It's called Ronin, and that was actually one of our big growth catalysts that got us from 48,000 daily active users in April to 1.7 million today. So I think that was really key. That's what a lot of projects think about, I guess, when they think about scalability right now. But I think because we've now hit this new level, we're now having to think about other types of scalability, right? Like social scalability. Like our Discord is now maxed out at 800,000. So like, what do we do? How do we continue to have a super tight-knit community when, you can't really, it's very difficult to speak in Discord because there's just like a flood of messages, right? So a lot of the tight-knit relationships that we were able to foster in the early days and have been kind of like the bedrock of the community, it's a lot harder, I think, at scale to foster that. So we have to think very purposely about how to keep doing that. I think, there's like Discord bots, right? Like we're hoping to get our Collab Land integration out this month. I think that's something that will help, right? So there's a way to approach it from like a tools perspective, I guess. But also we're, I guess, scaling out, for example, our community horizontally, right? Like we now have a Filipino Discord, a Spanish Discord, a Portuguese Discord. I just got a message this morning about now they're setting up a Indonesian Discord. But yeah, I think also long term, right, will Discord be the home for communities for Web3? That's also something that we need to push for an answer on, right? I'm not entirely sure yet, right? I think we'll also see, right, the merger of like forums and governance portals. That might be part of the solution, but it might also just be like in-game chat in some cases as well.
So if anyone's building it, talk to him, right? He'll help you. What's the volume that you guys did last month?
So all time, we're the #1 NFT project in terms of volume. We've done $2 billion, just over $2 billion. I think last month.
Okay, that's dope. So I think one interesting aspect is initially, right, as people we've developed products and we have communities kind of around them, it's a lot about technical scalability, and that's been like a narrative for a while. It's now moving towards social scalability. Tell us a little bit about how some of the concerns about the community are changing over time. So one example is it used to be confined to Discord. Now you have millions of people playing your game every day. And that means there's people outside the Discord that matter, like governments, right? Tell us a little bit more about what that looks like.
Yeah, so as you get larger, new bosses kind of appear, just like any game, I guess. So recently, I guess, so the government of the Philippines has started to like look into Axie, and they haven't been necessarily very hostile. They're just wondering like, oh, like how do we tax this thing? Like, should it be taxed? Et cetera. Right? It's kind of a surreal moment. So we recently had to issue a statement, to the government of the Philippines saying that, right, like we encourage our players to deal with the laws of their home countries. But I think there's also this element that we are this digital nation, and we're now basically having to craft relationships and maybe alliances with these, I guess, legacy governments in some ways. So I think,
Very, very legacy. I think the other conceptual idea here is that you have new types of stakeholders that pop up. And I think you've told me about your view that you think lots of different stakeholders are important, which I think maybe goes counter what some people believe, number one. Number two, there's probably a sequence to stakeholders, right? Which stakeholder matters more when? That's two questions, but that's for you to figure out which one to answer.
Yeah, so there is kind of a movement, right, of scientific community building, right? Or I'm starting to call it community design rather than community management. Community management is very like passive, right? We're dealing with things, managing things that are happening to us, whereas design is you're very purposefully kind of designing a way for people to understand the vision, a way to understand how they can contribute, and a way for them to be properly incentivized to contribute. So I think that's the way that I look at it. I think, yeah, within Axie, we have probably 15 different archetypes of different community members and contributors. Each one has different motivations for participation, different prerequisites for participation, different ways to best communicate with them, best engage them, motivate them, and incentivize them. So, yeah, I think like it is really helpful. I think Peter actually helped me with this, where you basically map out every single stakeholder in your ecosystem. You can also like make estimates on like how much volume they're driving within your ecosystem, how much of the code they're making as community developers, right? How much of the onboarding that they're doing. So I think, yeah, it's really important to think to basically break it down and try to make estimates around these, I guess, these data points or these metrics around adoption that each user or stakeholder group is driving, and then figure out ways to deepen your relationships with them.
And so different types of stakeholders. So within the community, you can kind of bucket certain people into groups. When you think of archetypes, are these only kind of community members, or are they also kind of investors, or maybe regulators, or like,
yeah.
How do you think about that?
So maybe I'll just talk about like the ones that I kind of mapped out in the Axie ecosystem. Let's see if I can remember them, right? So from left to right, there is PvP battlers, collectors, scholars, scholarship owners, marketplace traders, like NFT marketplace traders. There's Axis holders, SLP traders, SLP holders, Sky Mavis, content creators. Content creators can be like divided into artists, community developers, streamers. Like streamers are, I guess, like Twitch people, YouTube people. There's TikTokers as well, which we're finally starting to see. So yeah, that's content creators. And then there's there might be like institutional investors. So I think in order for, so like my target is to get 4 billion people on this earth playing Axie. So if we're gonna hit that, we actually need a large, broad, and diverse coalition of people. It can't be like only community members, right? It can't be like, I don't think we can discriminate. Like I think we need to be able to figure out how every single type of person basically can find a way to contribute to this network, especially if we're gonna hit 4 billion plus people.
Yeah, I think one interesting insight is that initially when you were catalyzing the community, you were really catalyzing like users and players that were passionate about like the game, right? But when you're talking about today bringing in institutional people, it's unlikely someone in Discord is able to do that. So that's really something that Sky Mavis, the company behind Axie Infinity, is kind of catalyzing today, right? Do you find that your work has shifted from kind of like helping a lot of members initially to kind of doing stuff that's a bit outside the game, or not really?
Yeah, I think as we've grown, my position personally has become a little bit more, right, like public facing. I'm trying to figure out how to build intimacy at scale with the community, I guess, rather than like in the early days, it was just like talking to people one-on-one in the Discord sometimes, right? Having very, I don't know, yeah, very kind of small, unscalable conversations. Now, a lot of what I do is like mass communication, you know, doing a lot of writing, some economy design, or like launch wrangling. But yeah, I think like also it's like figuring out how to delegate internally in Sky Mavis, but also how to delegate to the community and how to figure out how, if you want to delegate something to the community, how can you, yeah, basically get them to do it, or why would they want to do it, right?
How do you use a DAO to do that? And when do you not use a DAO to do that?
Yeah, I think I'm really, I'm kind of in sponge mode right now when it comes to basically using DAOs to incentivize community members. I'm not sure, like I want to see a bunch of different models tried. I think maybe the solution is, I mean, different archetypes of contributor probably want to be rewarded in different ways, right? Some people, they just want like the glory and the fame. If you try to give them money or tokens, they're gonna kind of be insulted, right? And so others are more mercenary, but it might be because someone, you know, their significant other won't let them contribute unless there's something concrete coming out of it, right? So I think there are many different ways to incentivize people. We shouldn't only rely on like crypto or crypto economic incentives. I think there's a lot to learn from open source communities. So I've been trying to talk to community builders from the open source world who have been doing this kind of stuff for 20 years without any access to tokens, right? So if we can basically use their strategies and then like throw, you know, governance token incentives into the mix is kind of, I think, this happy harmony or union. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm thinking about it, yeah.
Very cool. I mean, there's a bunch of builders here, right? So if you had to say, what are like 1, 2, maybe 3 big problems that people could solve by building something, what would it be?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm really excited about, I think there's going to be an explosion of choices and like governance dashboards and basically how to merge like community forums and governance dashboards. I think I'm seeing a lot of promising work done in that field. I think like there are going to be big winners there. That might be like where, you know, the next kind of range of Web3 social networks and coordination tools come out of. I think that's going to be really important. I think projects perhaps similar to Gitcoin, that might be like more specific to like specific DAOs. I think there's something there as well. That might just be solved by Gitcoin as well, like making more like white glove services for certain DAOs. So yeah, I think that's where the next phase is coming. I think. I mean, I think there's so much unexplored design space in NFTs as well right now. Like, please, like, I don't know, people are just focusing on like profile pictures because I guess like that's where people are spending a lot of money right now. But I think there's just so much more design space that's unexplored. Like, I might not even be able to like fathom or think of these ideas as kind of like up to the next generation.
Anything that you want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to be here. It feels super surreal. I remember in 2018, 2019, going to conferences and having to explain to every single person that I met what Axie was. So yeah, like thank you for coming. This is an awesome experience. If you want to get involved in Axie, you know, I think the door is open and there's a lot of really awesome content online. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me as well. Jiho's _Axie on Twitter.
He's the man. Thank you, everyone.